Have you ever wondered how everyday products are made? Let's get ready to be astonished as we unveil the incredible advancements in manufacturing technology. Sugar production from sugar beets. Did you know that sugar also originates from humble sugar beets? So, here's what happens. First, the beets are washed and sliced into tiny pieces to extract as much juice as possible. They use hot water in a multi-cell countercurrent diffuser machine to get that sugar content out. But the juice isn't ready for our tea or coffee just yet. It goes through a process to remove impurities. They use lime and carbon dioxide to help filter the juice and eliminate any unwanted stuff. They even add sulfur dioxide to maintain a suitable pH and keep the color looking nice and bright. Now, the juice becomes a syrupy concoction with about 60 to 65% sugar. To make it even sweeter, they mix it with other liquid sugars, creating mother liquor. This is then boiled in special vacuum pans and seeded with fine sugar crystals. Once the crystals are formed, a fancy machine called a basket centrifuge separates them from the liquid. And voila! We're left with those beautiful sugar crystals. The sugar crystals go through a drying process in either rotary or fluidized bed dryers. Then they cool down below 45 degrees Celsius before packing up and getting ready to go. Candle manufacturing. Crafting candles is not just about melting some wax and sticking a wick in it. It requires scientific precision and a keen eye for detail. They use unique cotton or linen wicks to ensure candles burn for a good while. These wicks are braided and treated with exceptional solutions to bend at a perfect 90-degree angle while burning. The wax is melted in massive kettles until it becomes a clear, almost liquid-like substance. They filter out any impurities that could mess up the burn. Then, they add fragrances and dyes to make those candles smell and look fantastic. Modern candle manufacturing uses fancy molding machines that can make batches of 50 to 500 gallons in just about 30 minutes. These molds are slightly tapered and polished so the candles can easily pop out. When the wax is slightly above its melting point, it flows into the molds and quickly solidifies with the help of cold water-filled jackets. Once the candles are done, they trim the wicks and recycle excess wax. Alternatively, this cool extrusion method uses extreme pressure to force the wax around the wick, creating a continuous candle length. They then cut it to size, shape, and pack it up using automation. Calisson candy. The process starts with peeled almonds and crushed candied fruit. They mix them up with hot sugar syrup to create a sunny yellow paste that forms the heart of every calisson. And here's the secret ingredient, a dash of bitter almond essential oil for that extra special aroma. The mixture takes a little breather for 3 whole days, all cozily wrapped in the workshop. Each calisson gets a smooth and matte royal icing coat. The talented folks at Roy Rene whip up egg whites and water like pros to achieve that perfect texture. The classic calissons wear a crisp white icing, which makes up half of Roy Rene's production. But for some fancy variations, they add icing in different colors that match the flavors of the almonds. Talk about tasty eye candy! Precision is everything when it comes to shaping these treats. They use a nifty machine to inject the dough onto thin bread sheets, giving each calisson its iconic shape. Then, expert hands carefully apply the icing with spatulas, and combs work their magic to make each calisson by hand. Plastic bags. The plastic bags are made of polythene from cracked natural gas or refined oil. They separate the essential oil for plastic production by density at the refinery. It's like sorting things by weight. Then, under intense pressure and heat, they isolate pure polythene chains formed into little resin pellets. They look like colorful little nuggets. The density of these resin pellets can vary depending on the pressure and temperature used. This helps create different types of plastic suitable for various uses. Once they have the pellets, it's time to extrude plastic film. They superheat and pressurize the pellets, turning them into a molten liquid. Then, they push this liquid through a circular die, creating a flexible plastic film. The film expands, cools down, and goes through some rollers, transforming into thin sheets for the bag walls. These sheets then head off to the printing machine for some fancy designs. Finally, 2 printed sheets are pressed together to form the sides of the bag. Plastic water tanks. These tanks are made by rotational molding, like baking a giant plastic cake. First, they take a hollow mold and fill it up with special polymer material. The mold is like a big, cozy bed for the plastic. Then, it's time for some slow and gentle birotational rotation. They give the mold a little spin to spread and shape the softened plastic evenly. Once the plastic takes on the mold shape, they remove it from the oven. It's like taking baked goods out of the oven, but there's no need to cool and add frosting here. The tank needs time to cool down, and that's when the magic happens. The plastic solidifies, becoming the final tank we all know. The duration of this process can vary, depending on the size and thickness of the tank. It could take as little as 20 minutes or as long as over 3 hours. Silk manufacturing. The art of silk production has stood the test of time, and is quite a labor-intensive process. It all begins with sericulture, the fancy term for raising silkworms. These little critters, specifically the Bombyx mori species, are cared for like VIPs. They get 5 meals a day of yummy mulberry leaves, go through multiple molting phases, and when they're all grown up, they're ready for some cocoon spinning action. These caterpillars have some handy spinnerets under their jaws. These secrete a special substance that turns into a solid filament upon contact with the air. They go through hot and cold immersions to get the silk out of these cocoons. It's an important step to extract the continuous thread. Once softened, it's time for reeling. This can be done by hand or with fancy machines. They carefully pass the filament through a porcelain eyelet and wind it onto a wheel. As each filament nears completion, they twist a new one onto it. Finally, they move on to yarn production, a process known as throwing. It involves adding twists and doubling the strands to achieve the desired size. Marble production. Let's talk about marbles, little spherical gems that bring joy to both kids and collectors. It all starts with sand, soda lime, and crushed cullet. They throw these ingredients into a giant furnace-driven tank, cranking up the heat to a scorching 2300 Fahrenheit. Inside the furnace, the mixture melts and becomes one fiery liquid. This fusion can take a whopping 28 hours. Once the molten mixture is ready, it flows into another vat called the flow tank. They inject molten colored glass, giving each marble its remarkable appearance. The speed and force of injection define the final design of each marble. Grooved feeders create those cool multicolored corkscrew marbles. Now, the still molten glass is released in globs and sliced up into equal parts with automatic cutting devices. They roll down metal ramps, cooling down as they go and gradually taking on their smooth and round shape. After the marbles have cooled and found their perfect spherical form, it's time for some meticulous sorting by hand. Flawed marbles get a second chance and are sent for remelting. Ball bearings. These little champs help everything from engines to car wheels run like a well-oiled machine. Firstly, automatic machines carefully cut the rings into their recommended shape, making sure not to leave any excess material behind. The outer ring faces get stamped with manufacturing information and bearing numbers to make their mark and show off their identity. Now it's time for some toughening up. The rings face extreme heat, reaching a blazing 1565 degrees Fahrenheit. They soak in the heat for 15 to 20 minutes and then dive into 375 degree Fahrenheit oil. After their oil-soaking adventure, they cool down by tempering at 340 degrees Fahrenheit for about 2 hours. Specialized grinding machines step in to give these rings their perfect dimensions. Race grinding ensures they're in the right place, with proper geometry and a smooth radius. Face grinding determines the width of the bearing, making sure they're just right. Inner rings go through bore grinding. Even the outer rings join the grinding fun. Lastly, the races get a special honing treatment to get a flawless surface finish and ensure they're perfectly shaped. That's the fascinating world of manufacturing in a nutshell. If you found these insights intriguing, stay tuned for more. See you soon.